Welcome, everyone, to the webinar. Today, we'll be talking about the powerful ways to optimize your data with Microsoft Power BI, Excel, and Office 365. And my name is David Huang. I'm a consultant here at Corporate Renaissance Group, part of the corporate performance management team, which includes the business intelligence practice. So we help clients with their business intelligence and reporting needs. And although we'll be talking about Power BI today, we do also work with Board and Tableau as a BI solution. The agenda for today, for the next 30 minutes, is I have a few slides just to summarize, and for those of you who don't know, introduce Corporate Renaissance Group as a company and what we do. Then we'll dig into the actual application, so I'll show how Power BI can connect to your various Office 365 data sources, update manipulate and shape the data for it and bring them into a visualization. Next, I'll also do a quick demo of the Microsoft Usage Analytics dashboard. This is a pre-built dashboard by Microsoft, and some of you folks from IT might find it useful. Corporate Renaissance Group, we're headquartered in Ottawa. We were established in 1989, so running for about 30 years. We've been profitable every year, and our success stems from our highly skilled consultants and staff. We have a wide range of skills among our staff, full end-to-end, from financial ERP systems to HR. On the right here, you can see some of the technologies that we work with. So Dynamics, Power BI, Power Apps, and then also on the some budgeting and planning platforms such as Board, Adaptive Insights, Rapid Start, as well as HR and Human Capital Solutions. So our focus is on full end-to-end business transformation. So we have all kinds of different tools to help with your business. And we also do custom application development for those out-of-the-box tools that don't quite fit or have gaps in your business processes. The theme of this webinar is optimizing your data. And what I mean by that is we have various different platforms running different parts of your business. And these platforms might be disconnected, which is a problem for us when we're not able to pull them all together and have a full and holistic view of our business. The other aspect is to convenience, whereas historically we've had to go into each individual platform, pull reports, and possibly compile them together in spreadsheets. Would take a long time, and especially when you need to go and refresh your data. It's largely a manual process, which is a big hindrance when we have tools available to us, such as Power BI, that's able to connect to these various data sources automatically and pull them all together into one platform for us to access. So we'll be focusing on the Office 365 platform. We've got some upcoming webinars that deals with some of the other Microsoft tools, such as GP. So I have the assumption that most of us on here have had some exposure to Power BI and Office 365. You don't need to be an expert or currently even be using it. But for this is not a technical webinar, but I did want to inspire and demonstrate some of the ways you might want to leverage Power BI and use that to collect data from Office 365. And for those of us who have haven't had exposure to these tools yet, I'll just do a summary. Power BI is Microsoft business intelligence tool. It connects to your data and presents it in visualizations, which then your users can interpret and analyze in a meaningful way, with the ultimate goal, of course, being to able to analyze and make decisions and actions based on your data. And Office 365 is Microsoft's cloud version of Microsoft Office. So historically, that included Outlook, Word, Excel, but now in the modern workplace, they've added some additional applications to it, such as Teams, and rounded it and catered it to the modern workplace today. Now, if you're not familiar with everything here, we do have on-demand webinars. I know we've had a webinar on Teams just last week, and that webinar should be uploaded to the website here. So we do have some of those videos on demand for those of you interested. Just wanted to show everyone that Office 365, for the most part, is bundled. So some of you may have access to all of the services, some of you may not, but some of you may not even be aware that you have access to this. So check with your IT administrator on which tools you have. But I think this is just worth mentioning, especially now that we'll be demoing, connection to a lot of these tools. So I'll start on the first application, which is email. We all use email. And just to clear up some terminology, you'll hear this, Exchange is the platform that hosts your emails, files, and calendars, but Outlook is the application that's used to access it. So you may be opening up Outlook on your browser, your phone, or your desktop, but ultimately that is connecting to information that's on the Exchange. So I'm going to exit out of the slideshow here and jump into Power BI. Now what you'll be seeing is Power BI desktop version. This is the report authoring tool for those who are not familiar. And this is the tool that I would be using to connect to my data and author my reports. So it's just asking me to sign into my account here. I'll do that quickly. And you'll see I start here with a blank screen. I can build some visualizations fields. Right now, I don't have any data, so I'm going to go and click on the Get Data drop-down and click on More for a list of options. So if I type in Exchange, you can see that I have the ability here to connect to Microsoft Exchange, which I'm going to do. It's going to then ask me for the mailbox address. In this case, I would just enter my email address. And you'll see here that I have a few different options here. I have a data preview on the right, but you can see that I have my calendar information. So this includes all my meetings. I also have mail. These are my emails in my inbox and all of my folders, actually. And also meeting requests, people, and tasks. I don't use much of these. I don't store my tasks on the Exchange or in Outlook. So I'm just going to pull together my calendar and my mail. And I'll click on Load. So this is going ahead and going to pull all of my calendar events and my mail. It will take a while. But you can see fairly quickly, simple so far, that I've just had to connect to Office 365 in this case in the Exchange, and then very soon I'll have some data fields to work with. All right, so for this webinar, I don't want to get too detailed into building visualizations. We do have an on-demand webinar that is more introductory level on how to build your different visualizations. But just want to show you very quickly here, every email has a unique ID. So if I drag this onto here and I change this to count, this is going to show me a number of different emails that I have. I have some other fields in here, such as importance is red, the subject. So let's say if I drag is red onto here, you can see that I can select either true or false. So if I select false, this is going to give me a count of all my unread emails. So I'm just going to give this a title here so I know what I'm looking at. Right now it's currently a table. I'm going to change this to a card, make it look more visually suitable. I also have the folder path of my email. So in this case, I have organized a lot of my emails into different folders. I can convert this into, say, a donut chart. And again, I'll have to drag into the ID into the visualizations. And you'll see here I have a breakdown of all of my emails by folder. And just for fun, I'll drag subject onto here. Power BI isn't suitable for reading your emails, but just to show that the data is in here, you might want, this is a good way for me to demonstrate the interaction between Power BI visuals. So you can see purple here is my inbox. So if I click on that, you'll see all my visualizations updates. So unlike it first showed, I am up to date on my emails. I only have one unread email. And the subject list down here also updated to only show that. And when I discuss about having your email in different platforms, you can see I also have data from my calendars tab. So calendar tasks have a separate ID. I can bring that into here, change this to account. And maybe I also have a start date on here. Maybe I can filter this. Change this to relative date figuring. So I can do is in this next 30 days. So I've created another card here, and this one is, I'll say, meetings in the next 30 days. Another use case for this is if you have flat files emailed to you either by a colleague or by a system that automatically pushes that, you'd be able to access those on the Exchange as well. So what I'm going to do is go into Edit Queries. And this will open up Power BI's query editor. It already generated one for calendar and mail, but let's say if I wanted to pull in attachments as well, I'm going to not change the mail that I already have, but I'm going to duplicate this. And let's rename this to attachments, just to stay organized here. And you can see this is my data set. In my case, I've set up some Excel files to go to my demo folder. So what I'm doing now is just applying some of those data cleanup and shaping steps to show that, to prepare my data so I can bring that into my visualizations. So I've just filtered to show only my demo folder. And you'll see that it added on the right, it added a series of steps. In this case, so far, I've only done a filter, but let's say I also only want the most recent email. I'll click that, and I want to say is the latest. And now my 2 rows have become 1. Now, if I scroll to the right here, there's an attachments column, and this is the column that is going to contain the file, any attachment files that I have in here. So I don't need everything else. I'm going to remove the other columns, expand attachments. And you can see here I have 2 files. One of them is an image that must be just the signature in the email, and the other is an Excel file here. And to gain access to the actual content, I do have to click into here. And you're seeing as I'm going through all of these steps, Power BI is adding a series of steps in here that the next time, let's say for next week, if I receive an updated version of that Excel file, I can click on refresh, and it's going to apply the same steps, meaning it's going to automatically go into my demo folder, going to filter for the latest email, and apply the same cleanup steps that I'm doing here. So very quick and automated way to gain access to your data. And I have multiple tabs, worksheets in the workbook. I'm just going to select the first one. It is kind of a big Excel workbook, so I anticipate some loading time. And here we can see my data in the Excel workbook that was sent to me in the email. So we can see that the data does need some reformatting depending on the format of the file that's sent to you. It may be clean, it may not. In this case, I will have to do some cleanup here. So for an example, you see my data actually starts in row 4. I'm going to remove the top 3 rows. And then I'm going to promote the first row as a header. You can see my header's on here, but it's not actually part recognized as a header. And then you can also see I have a grand total in here. I have some other cells. There are ways to clean up. I won't get too much into details. But in this case, what I would do is I would go filter and filter out the dates. Let's say change the column type to date, so it'll convert everything to a date, and anything it doesn't recognize, it'll be able to remove those. It's taking a bit longer than it normally does, so I'm not going to go ahead and do all of those additional steps. But once this is done, I'll click close and apply. And once that's done, I'll have the attachments available to me here, and I can bring in my Excel data and the attachment all into one view here on my report. And if you're familiar with Power BI, of course, you know it works similar to Excel, where you can have multiple tabs and you can have links between tabs. So that was an email. I think another neat thing is actually if for Power BI dashboards that I have published, just downloading here. I'm currently now signing into the web service. So this houses all of the completed dashboards that I have published to the web. The neat thing about Outlook is if you don't spend much time in Power BI, you can actually add a shortcut in Outlook where I can drag. I'll bring this to my other screen. Outlook. I can drag the URL into here. And I can access my Power BI dashboards right in Outlook. So normally I'm in Mail. I can click on the ellipses here, go to my shortcuts, and right within Outlook I can gain access to one of my dashboards. So those are some neat things that you can do with your email and Power BI. Another data source you might have is a SharePoint site. So SharePoint is used to create internal websites. You can have sites and subsites that your internal teams use to share information and share files. So I'm going to open up my SharePoint site that I created for the webinar. Just dragging it in here. So one of the ways we can, this is integrated with Power BI is, if I edit my page, I can add a web part that embeds a Power BI dashboard directly into the site. So I'll go ahead and start and do that. And if I scroll down, I can find Power BI. So what I'll need here is a URL. So I'm just going over to Power BI report, and this is actually a Power BI report. It's got instructional on the first tab. But what I need is here, I need to go to File, Embed in SharePoint Online. And once I click on that, I have a link for this that will allow me to embed that back into the SharePoint site. So if I go back here, go to my Power BI web part. You can see here that I've embedded that into the site. So for those of you who do use SharePoint, this is great when when you're looking at your Power BI right within SharePoint. And within SharePoint, you might also have stored files or lists. In this case, I made up a list just to demonstrate the capabilities of the data. So we can see here, I just made a list of a few of the Office 365 applications and gave it some data fields, used, yes or no, and a score of some sort. And similar to how we were doing with email, I'm going to give this a name, and just so that we have a clean white canvas, I'm going to start a new tab and go back into Get Data. And this time, instead of selecting Exchange, I'll select the SharePoint connector. You can see here there's a few different things. So if I can connect to a file that lives in a folder, or I can connect to a list. So I just showed you the list with the different applications in here. Pull my URL. I believe I need the root URL. So the URL that I need would be, I'd have to go to home and copy that. So in Power BI, you are signed in. If you recall, I signed in earlier. So this is going to check your Microsoft credentials and see if you have access to that SharePoint site. If you didn't have access, it wouldn't let you get here. But as you can see in the browser that I do, I have here a wide variety of selections again. But in this case, I want my list, which I was showing you earlier. There's some extra fields here that we didn't see earlier. So let's select the Office 365 list. And let's transform it. This will bring me directly to the query editor as opposed to loading it directly right away. You're familiar with this screen, and my fields are in here. There are some hidden fields in SharePoint that was not shown in the browser. But here I know I can see I have my applications, I have my used, and my score. So these were the 4 fields that I had in there, and I can remove everything else. All right, so SharePoint list data I can pull in. Just to illustrate an example of a file, I can pull in an Excel file as well that is stored on SharePoint. In this case, instead of selecting the SharePoint list, I would select the SharePoint folder. And in SharePoint, I have a variety of different files in here. I'm going to transform that to select the file that I want. And you see the sales and marketing sample. So if I click into it, this Excel worksheet is the same as the one we saw earlier. So you see I have multiple worksheets. I click into the table, it will load the same data set that I had shown you before that was also sent to my email. And there we go. So I can call this Excel on SharePoint. If I close and apply, you see my report authoring page I have. Once that is done loading, I'll be able to click and drag fields from the Office 365 list that I showed you, as well as my Excel file on SharePoint. And there we go. So that was SharePoint. The next application in Office 365 I'll show was Teams. Teams is a collaboration application, so we use it here at the Corporate Renaissance Group to discuss internally, share files on certain projects. And we also use it to set up teams with our clients as well. So I'm going to open that application. You can see here, I've just clicked on Teams. These are the various teams that I have set up. I had set one up in demos in particular. And so the nice thing about here is similar to on SharePoint, how you can embed, we can have a conversation about, a particular project. And let's say if I'm on a sales team, we can have a conversation, we can share files, and we can also have a Power BI dashboard. I already have added some of these, but I'll just show. If you wanted to add a new tab, you would just go to Add a Tab, select the Power BI part, and because I'm signed in under the same account as I was for SharePoint, same account as I was for Power BI, same account here for Teams, it already knows all of the various dashboards that I published. So I can select that, give it a name. And all within the Teams platform, that full view of all of my reports. At the same time, I can have conversations about them in this tab. So that's a great integration that Power BI has with Teams. So I hope that's inspired you and showed you some of the advantages of having a Microsoft BI tool such as Power BI, and also using Office 365. There's great integration among the whole ecosystem, and there's still plans for Microsoft to add it more and add somewhat of a seamless experience when using any Microsoft product. The other thing I wanted to show, this is more catered towards the IT folks, but here, going to go into a specific workplace and show the Microsoft Usage Analytics dashboard. So here's a separate workspace, separate from everything else. I can here click on Service Content Packs, and what this is a pre-built dashboard, like I had mentioned. This is called Microsoft. Oops, I misspelled that. Microsoft 365 Usage Analytics. So it'll take some time to load, and you will need your tenant ID. I've got mine handily saved. A moment while I pull it up here. So you will need to check with your administrator, or maybe you are the administrator. You need your tenant ID. So you paste that into here. Actually, so what this is I have a link in here that allows me to obtain the tenant ID. So you will need this ID over here, which is a alphanumeric string. And we'll paste that ID once it prompts me for that. And this will take a few minutes, but it'll connect to, it'll start building all of these dashboards and reports. So going to click into my report. Now you would have seen this earlier because I used this as an example, but we can have here different, I believe it takes some time to load. I'm going to go back to my personal workspace and show it from there because it's already done loading. But you can gain statistics from your usage on various different Office 365 products on here. And then these are all pre-built. All that was required was for me to supply it with the tenant ID of my Office 365 environment. And these are all pre-built and automatically loaded. So that was Microsoft Usage Analytics and everything that I wanted to show you today. So I hope this has inspired you and show you some value in having both Office 365 and Power BI all available to you. And if you wanted to get in touch with us, ask questions or follow up, you can contact us at by phone or by email, crg@crgroup.com. You can also go to our website at crgroup.com. So thank you everyone for viewing this, and look forward to connecting with you.